So that was very, very big from the AFL indeed. It was only 9,000 off.
I was about to say, if the Gold Coast Adelaide game was played in Adelaide, they would have broke the record. No offence to Adelaide fans, no, Gold Coast fans, but Adelaide are like the Beatles at the moment, and the Adelaide supporters cannot get enough.
But count the fact that it's an Anzac Day game, you'd probably be counting in an additional 25,000, 30,000 fans at the G. So I think the official attendance was 87,000 approximately. So they've got bigger, I think. They've been bigger, so I think a part of the reason why that is because Essendon and Collingwood, or especially Collingwood, they're just not going that well. I mean, Essendon have kind of are on a revival now with the likes of Joe Watson coming in, Dyson Heppel. You must be a very happy man, Michael.
I'm a very happy man. In fact, prior to the game, I think both camps were quite nervous going into this game. They didn't really quite know what to expect. And we were actually saying, I was at the ground. I was right on the wing up in the up in the nosebleed section and quite high up, but right under the cover, which was great because I think it was raining for most of the first quarter. But since then, you know, the clouds departed and it was quite nice. But one thing we noticed was I reckon the crowd was a lot louder during the Hawthorn game in round one because I think there was more Essendon faithful there. But I think both camps were genuinely nervous about this game. They had no idea which way the game was going to go, and up until three-quarter time, it was really anyone's game. But we should mention the Anzac Day medalist, Joe Danaher. He was absolutely outstanding. I haven't seen him with this much confidence for a very long time, and I think his 3 goals, although the scoreline will show he kicked 3 goals for, I think the 3 goals he kicked was absolutely crucial, particularly the one in the third quarter when after Darcy Moore kicked that goal and put Collingwood in front. You know, Essendon, straight away they responded and he kicked it from outside 50.
I think what was very important was his 11 score involvements.
It's very important.
Plus 3 goals, yes, you know. Like me and you, we love to look in depth in the stats. You look at the disposals. And I actually want to talk about that later. Tom Mitchell's 37 disposals compared to Joel Selwood. And how Joel Selwood absolutely would have blitzed him in the stats.
Yeah.
I think third quarter I thought he's going to win. Even though he kicked 4 points, he scored.
He did, and I think after that first goal that he got in the very early minutes of the game, you could just tell his confidence was right up straight away. He's much like Tom Hawkins, where if he kicks the first one, you can expect a big day from him. So he was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, a lot of it is mental, I think. If you miss the first one, your confidence kind of goes down, and for Solo's another example of that.
Yeah.
Genuinely a very good kick, misses, you know, the first one, and then kind of drifts off from there. But I think Joe Danaher, he's done a lot of work with Matthew Lloyd. And we know how accurate Lloyd was. He was a sharpshooter in many ways. So I'm not sure if Lloyd is still at the club.
Nah.
No, I think his capacity's gone there.
Just before Tony got sacked.
Yeah, so you do have these goal-kicking coaches, and Tony Lockett is another one who went to Sydney to help the likes of Buddy, Tippett. Do you think those part-time forwards have a role in the game?
Yeah.
Particularly.
Any type of forwards.
I think so, and you look at Lockett now. He's dropped a lot of weight. Went to Sydney. I mean, hasn't helped Sydney's chances so far. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But certainly, I think big forwards who show a presence, who played in the club, they've got a proud history, proud culture. They certainly play a big role. But you know, talking about forwards, Essendon's forwards were very, very important in yesterday's match. You look at Fantasia Orazio. He is a beautiful, beautiful specimen, and he is just. I think particularly that last season, where Essendon did have a lot of their top-up players, he and both Anthony McDonald-Tip and Woody both really cemented their places in that Essendon side.
I don't know about you, but Anthony McDonald-Tip is the greatest player to ever play the game.
Oh, I love him. I love him. And in fact, there was a couple of photos going viral yesterday. You looked at his hair, the very top of his head. It looked like there was a massive tarantula on his head.
Wow.
Now, who would want to go anywhere near Anthony McDonald-Tip and Woody? He's just an absolute beast. And
he's a really good player, though.
And not only that, but I haven't seen this for a long time, and I've always said this about Essendon. We don't have enough quick players, but coming into this season, we've got Collier, and we used to just have Collier as our quick player. We've now got Tip and Woody. We've now got Josh Green, who puts a lot of pressure on, and we've got Orazio Fantasia. So there's a lot of quick players.
So you're telling me Essendon's moved to speed now?
We've moved to a lot more speed. Took me a while there, but yeah, look, Essendon are looking a lot quicker, and that rundown tackle from Anthony McDonald-Tip and Woody.
And he ran down a very fast player as well.
Hoskin Elliott.
Wasn't just, you know, a very slow player like a Sam Mitchell or Will Hoskin Elliott is probably one of Collingwood's fastest players. and he just ran down on him like, you know, he was a cheater, really.
Yeah, he absolute cheater. And a cheater with C-H-E-E.
He's like
the proper way.
Yeah, he's like someone in a horror movie you just don't want to see because he's just so terrifyingly good.
He's terrifyingly good.
So let's talk about
very
someone
good
who's
players.
not terrifying good. Doggies kicking, especially in the first quarter.
Here we go.
They should have been 6-7 goals up against Brisbane, but yet Brisbane were 1 point in front. considering-
17 goals, 20 behinds.
In the first quarter, it was 17 inside 50s to 6, and Brisbane were leading by 5 points. It was 3 goals, 7 to 5 goals. Credit to Brisbane, credit to Hipwood kicking those 3 standings in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
Brisbane, you look at their starting midfield of Stephen Martin, Tom Rockcliffe, Dane Beams, Dane Zorko.
how good is that starting?
That is a
midfield, though?
very good, and their Achilles heel really has been their young players in the forward and back line. It's never really been the midfield, and those experienced players were kind of carrying them a little bit. Albeit Hipwood was a good young player there. The first half, Brisbane came out over 30 points on top. And then in the second half, I think the Bulldogs
they
really
struggled,
showed
yeah.
their class. Yeah.
I just think I think I said a few weeks ago when the Lions played Essendon how much I love Hipwood. I think he's an absolute superstar.
Yeah.
Put on some weight, put on some
Put
size.
more
He's
weight,
going to absolutely kick a few. And I'm actually liking the Lions. I think a few years ago they were a club that everyone wanted to leave, but I wouldn't say if you're a young player, you kind of stick with the club at the moment. I wouldn't really want to leave.
It is funny, 2 seasons ago, people were saying Brisbane Lions are going to make the top 8 when I think they got Alan Christensen,
Yeah.
and they got a couple more players into that
Beams.
and it looked like a really prolific midfield, and people were saying, this is going to be a team that's going to really surprise and get into the 8, and it never happened. And a lot of factors obviously do tell in that, with their back line and their forward line both struggling. But this season's been really great under Chris Fagan. I think they've really injected some competitiveness and some real run and just some real purpose. So they are looking great.
Like I said when they played Essendon, they have a good game plan, and it's all a working process. The game plan works. Next thing they know, they've got to hold their game plan for 4 quarters, and then the third step will be to create a new game plan if the first game plan fails. Like Doggies are a good team, especially in the finals last year. When something didn't work, they changed it and made something else work. Hawthorn's been doing that, forever, and hence why they've won 3 premierships. They've won 3 premierships in a row.
Yeah, at the elite level, if you stay still, you're going to get, you're going to go past it. So I think it's always about, adapting, whether that's a change of coach, as cruel as that might be. Perhaps that's what Collingwood needs at the moment. Kind of diverting to Collingwood a bit. Buckley, we can't not talk about it. I know we talked about Collingwood last week, but it's a real talking point. I mean, I've got the Herald Sun newspaper here. If you can see that on the video camera,
you can see his big nose in there.
Yeah, Buck's on the brink.
He's trying to cover it up.
He's been on the brink for a little while,
for a very long time. He made a claim very early on.
Yes.
Towards the end of last year. And what
If he
was that
doesn't make
claim?
the finals,
If
he's gone.
He's gone.
So why would you do that? I mean, that just puts a lot of pressure on you as a coach. There's internal expectations and there's external expectations.
It's going to take a lot for Maguire to sack him though. Maguire, I don't know if you realise, but Maguire kind of likes Buckley. I don't know. I know there's a few hints if you look closely, but yeah, Maguire seems kind of like Buckley.
Well, I think, the introduction of Buckley when Mick Malthouse was coaching at the prime of his coaching career, really. What do you guys think about that? In hindsight, was that a bad move?
Oh no, it's a good move. I think in theory it was a good move. It was the same thing Sydney did with Longmire and Paul Roos. Same thing Paul Roos did with Simon Goodwin. It's a good move. Even though Collingwood in that year made the grand final, Malthouse is getting old, getting grumpy.
Yeah.
Look what he did at Carlton. I think he was burnt out at Carlton.
Wow, that's a really good example because
it's hard. It's the same with draft picks. Jack Watts went number 1, and now years later you look at the draft and you redo the draft, and Jack Watts is probably not in the top 20. At the time, he was number 1. He was the best player. He was 17, but best under 18 player going around. So everything is always good in theory. Everything's good. It's just execution. Ross Lyon could absolutely bomb the Fremantle, but he took Freo to a grand final. And now he's actually doing an okay job rebuilding, but give him a year or two.
Yeah, I think he's up there with Clarko as one of the best coaches of the modern era.
You'd have to say so.
Especially now with the way he's introducing. So it can. You can become attached to a team that, you know, you go to Freo and you build these really good players like Fife, Lockie Neal, Barlow, and they come to the grand final. They lose narrowly in the grand final, and now they're on the decline. But Ross Lyon has the ability to adapt. He says, "Okay, we're going to prepare for our future. Instead of Mundy captain, we're going to put Fife captain." He should be staying at the club, I would think.
I'm always going to be 50-50 until he signs, but I believe he'll stay. I believe I'm pretty sure, the way I see it, and I said it about Martin, I said it about Rockcliffe, who's also out of contract, if they are going to go, they know where they're going as of this moment. There's no speculation outside their head. They know they're going to leave. They know, Fife knows he's going to be at St Kilda next year or something like that. There's really no secret in his mind. But actually, I want to talk about an ugly side of footy. The racism on the weekend, the Doggies Brisbane game.
Yeah.
Just a few weeks after we had the whole Eddie Benson, Patrick Rutter incident. I just think, let's go back to the 1990s for a second. I know how much people love to go back to the 90s. Oh, I hate those people with an absolute passion. But back in those days, this is the 1990s when homosexuality was a mental disorder.
Wow.
Yeah, no joke. Homosexuality in the 1990s was still classed as a mental disorder.
Come a long way.
And racism was just a part of everyday footy until, I know Michael Long stood up in the first Anzac Day game, and Nicky Winmar did the whole jumper pointing. And we're now in 2017, and racism's still in footy, and I think people are absolute bad words for being racist. It's something that doesn't belong in society, let alone footy. And I know there's the right way to go about handling racism, and there's the wrong way. I like the way you got websites probably like BuzzFeed, who I think handle racism the wrong way. Then you got AFL. I think they're doing what they can do. You can't kick everyone out who says a bad thing about someone.
I mean,
they're handling it.
I think the AFL have done a lot, particularly in the last decade, with multicultural round, where they really try to inject a lot of people into the community to try and help out. With all of these, different communities that are really trying to reach out broadly and try and get AFL into these communities and try and wipe out racism. Of course, you're never going to wipe out racism, because a lot of players and a lot of people turn to that when they are struggling, or when they're trying to find an excuse. And unfortunately, it's something that I think all players are going to do, unfortunately. But the thing is, I think the AFL are trying as hard as they possibly can to wipe this out. Players are apologising, which is great. It does come down now to the fans and how the AFL do this. And I think a lot of different clubs, they handle it in different ways. But I think the way in which clubs handle these kind of situations have been pretty admirable in the last couple of years.
Yeah, the only exception I'd add would be Eddie Maguire with Adam Goods.
Yeah, that was a terrible incident.
On radio. It just proves that even if you're an educated man, you still have to be mindful of, racism, whether it's casual or direct. There's no place in the game for that.
No.
I think this specific incident, I don't think we can mention the specific comments.
He said it to a trainer.
Yeah, he said it to a trainer.
Yeah.
I thought it may have been to Lin Jong.
No, but he said to a trainer.
So player or coaching, it doesn't actually
the
matter.
trainer's doing his job. He's doing what he's paid to do. I remember I left the Free Cheese Squad, and I say it and I mean it, that Free supporters are the worst supporters. They're the ones I hate the most.
I thought it was Collingwood.
No, I've never had an issue with Collingwood supporters. I hate the Free supporters most. An incident happened in, I think, 2010. I was in the cheer squad, and Mitchell Johnson, who last year got suspended for having drug possession, and someone just yells out, "Good on your snuffs!" And I was like,
wow.
To your own player?
Yeah, to your own player.
Yeah.
As an essence, what you should know about booing your own players. But I just thought, and that really just drove me out of the cheer squad. Drove me out of Free squad. I just don't like Free supporters.
Yeah,
it's weird to say for the team I support.
Yeah, it's a balance, isn't it? Because you want to give fans the ability to. It's I don't know if this is a great analogy, but in media there's this term, the freedom of speech. So being free to voice your opinion. I think there's a right and wrong way to go about it, especially when you're at a football match. I think the principles are still similar, even though the mode is different. Booing, I think, Aka used to have, Aka Manis that is, he used to have quite a bit of booing because he was a damn good player. But, yeah, certain players where you target them not on their footballing ability, but on a personal level. That's when it gets bad.
Well, one thing I learned, because I know under 18s when I played my last season of footy, I was actually playing as a tagger role. Down back, I tagged the midfielders who went forward. And I realised two things. You never pick on family or relationships or anything personal, and you never pick on race. Even in the footy, you'd be like, oh, Danaher, you're a hack, or Danaher, you're a flog. You don't go, anything racist or anything personal. It's just common knowledge to keep those things private. It's at the end of the day, those players on the field, even though one could, get into a punch-up, they shake each other's hand. Back in the day, they should get into punch-ups and have a beer after the game. And as fans, we don't get the opportunity to have a beer with the players after the game, and we should just respect what they're doing. I'm all fine with booing. Like Gary Abbott got booed against Carlton, and people made a fuss about it. I was thinking, if you don't like the guy, just who cares? But yeah, once you target personal racism, I think you really should go home and have a look at yourself.
Yeah, I think there's really no excuse for it now in this age, and I guess we're talking about one individual here, but it can have a massive effect on those that they target.
Oh, there's so many that don't get heard. That's the thing.
That's right. You still talk to Indigenous players today who played almost 2 decades ago, and they still say that it affects them. They still don't forget those comments that were said to them on the football field or by a fan when they were having a set shot for goal or something. So, those comments do stay with them. They do have effects. There are, psychologists at clubs for it. But, I think the fans really need to... and I've seen it before when someone has said a racist remark, but in fact, a lot of fans around the people haven't endorsed it, and in fact, went out of their way to say to these people, hey, look, you can't go saying that. That's unacceptable here in this day society. You can't do that. So I think the onus should be on the fans as well. The onus should be on the fans to say, hey, look, you can't say that. And if people are brave enough to say that, then eventually it will be stamped out because people. Well,
that's one of the things that happens. That people do stand up. The fans now stand up and be like, don't say that. That's you're a bit of a penis.
Yeah.
And it's just something that does not belong in footy or in the world in general.
So what do you think the punishment should be for racist remarks? Do you think they should get a second chance?
No. I think
because I think the ban is that they can't actually ever go to an AFL game. I could be wrong.
I like a 3-year ban or something like that.
Certainly, if the fans from a club, if the club do see that they are from that particular club, I think they do pretty much sanction
if they're a member, they take away the membership.
They take away the membership.
But it's like the Eddie Betts one. The lady was not a member, so they can't really do anything about that.
It is certainly a contentious issue, and we don't like seeing it in our game.
No.
Boo someone because they did something wrong, on the ground, or don't boo them because of their race. It's just unacceptable.
Let's go to we'll say a positive topic. But
yes.
Depends where you stand on this club, but Hawthorns win.
Yeah, I mean, good to finally see some of their players like Rioli, Bruce, Burgoyne, all doing things like that we expect of them. And look, it's taken 5 rounds for them to come. But I think the biggest question from this game isn't in fact Hawthorn. I think it's more the West Coast Eagles. And we expected, a year on from that terrible loss that they had again at the MCG, you would have thought they would have rectified what they've done wrong at the MCG in the past. They just can't play the ground, gentlemen.
No.
And it's amazing. I know Freo's new training facility, they have, it's a big ground, but they can move it to every ground. So if they're playing Sydney DSCG, they can move the ground in and make the wings. And I think that's good. I don't know what's West Coast issue. It's the ground.
It's the ground. You can't, to an extent, it's outside of their control because if your home deck is, in WA and they've got a fantastic record over there and you go on the plane and you go to Melbourne and you know that you don't have a good record, there must be a psychological factor.
It's a psychological factor.
Yeah.
Above anything, I think it's a psychological factor. If you're well drilled, if you practice well, you can play at any ground. And you look at some of the best clubs in the competition, they can play anywhere at any time and they'll still have the same kind of composure to win those games. I'm not convinced that West Coast are Premiership contenders now.
Well,
I'm really not.
One of our next topics, I do talk about who I think can win the Premiership, and I think, honestly, I do think we'll get to that a bit later. But I do think there's only 3 teams as of right now that can win the flag. I fun fact though, when Sydney beat Hawthorn in 2012 in the grand final, they won a 10-game losing streak at the MCG.
That's
So
very true.
it's kind of a thing. I know they say West Coast come to the grand final, but when it comes to grand final, the MCG it's not a one-term game. And I do believe that apart from when the team wears their Clash jersey, not naming names or anything, not being
I think we
sour
know
about
who you're
that
alluding
at
to there.
all.
I think we know who you're alluding to there, but
I do
this
think
is a
that,
problem for West Coast.
incident was proof that it was a away game for that team.
But I also think that the fixture isn't that fair for West Coast. I mean, in a lot of senses it is, because they have a lot of home games, and those home games they win quite comfortably. They are flat track bullies after all. But the problem is, when they do come to the MCG, they don't come there that often. And this, besides the game that they played against Richmond and this one,
There's the only game there.
they've got no more games for the rest of the season, so they can't rectify those mistakes unless they're in a final against the Victorian side at the MCG. So it does put them in a pretty awkward situation.
So what specifically do you think they have to focus on? I mean, you know, when they're at, is it Patterson Stadium now? Is that what it's called? So it used to be. I'm still devoted to the Subiaco.
It's still. But they're only there for another.
They've got a new stadium being built.
Next year.
Oh, really?
Not too far away. It's looking like a very
looking
good stadium.
lovely.
According to the graphics.
Looking absolutely lovely. But yeah, actually, I want to talk about the West Coast first. It's nothing you can really do. You really can't train for this. You can't train. It's a psychological matter. It's like it's like a hoodoo for a team. How a team can't beat a team, no matter where they are on the ladder.
But surely you have to put procedures in place to try and rectify that. I mean, you mentioned sports psychologists, and they can work as well in terms of a goal kicking sense.
Absolutely.
I know it's almost like a superstition, but players like Favola used to wear headphones to replicate the crowd noise, or whether it was music. Travis Cloak used to do it as well. So there are all these things they can do. It's one thing to do it on the training ground, it's another to do it away from home. But to become a Premiership contender, which they have the potential of doing, they need to start being better at the MCG. Because you look at this game and you say, West Coast should have beaten Hawthorn.
Coming into it, they were pretty warm favourites, weren't they?
Yeah,
with Hawthorn's form line.
Hawthorn did the 4-peat. Speaking of Hawthorn, that's one thing that really impressed me. I think Tim O'Brien came of age, and so did Sicily. Two young players.
Yes, Sicily has always been in and around that team. The trouble is, when you're a top team, you get the draft picks at the bottom end, so to speak, and you see GWS. They've got all the talent in the world. They can just pretty much hand out first-round draft picks like they're flyers
that's
at the mall.
They give away players like Adam Trelaw a few years ago, who came second in their best affairs that year. Did you even know he's gone?
Why would they even care? Like, they've got just a stockpile of talent. You compare them to Gold Coast, and
Gold Coast just didn't have that talent. Like, even the players who's left Gold Coast, apart from I don't know anyone. I think Maverick Waller's probably been the best, and he got delisted from Gold Coast. He didn't even leave. He's in the leadership group with St Kilda now. Apart from that, who's been a really good player since leaving Gold Coast? Name one good player. I think Caddy's done okay, but he's done okay. Cressy okay. O'Meara, don't know how long he's going to be out again with his knee. Bernal hasn't played a game for Fremantle. Charlie Dixon, kind of coming to form, but still, he's not the player Port wanted him to be.
You mentioned Bernal there. He had an incident.
Got kicked off a plane.
Got kicked off the plane. He has so much talent. He could be one of the best players in the game. I feel sorry for him a little bit because his calf issue, if you have a chronic calf issue, you keep on redoing it. And apparently he's one of the best trainers at Fremantle. So there must have been an attitude change coming from the Gold Coast to Freo.
Oh, I tell you who I think that's one player, and I was kind of worried when Bernal went. Michael Walters. He got sent down, in 2012 he got sent down to WRFL. WFL.
The Waffle.
The Waffle, that's it. And, he came back midway through 2012, and I think he hasn't apart from being injured, he really hasn't missed a game.
No.
And when Bernal came, I'm thinking to myself, what's going to happen? Will Bernal become like Walters, or Walters will go the same track as Bernal? So they pretty much became good friends since he came to the club. Walters now in the leadership group, haven't had the best season, but I think, Michael Walters is a good example for pretty much any Indigenous player. You look up to players like May, who's now a captain, Goods from the past. Wayne Ganeen, Michael Long, and I think Michael Walters in there up there as those real influential Indigenous players.
He's in the leadership group, is he not? Yeah.
he
So
certainly
that's
is.
a fantastic change, and that's another endorsement to
And,
Ross Lyon.
Someone who looked like he wasn't going to play
No.
almost 6 seasons ago.
And if Fife happens
Came
to
a long
leave,
way.
I think he's in line for the captaincy if Fife does leave. Yeah. I want to talk about. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I do believe that 3 teams can win it. As of today, 3 teams can win it.
I'm convinced there's a couple more, but yeah, three
think-
definites.
Really? Yeah.
I think not Geelong, GWS and Adelaide are far ahead. They're like miles and miles and miles ahead. And I think Geelong can win based off their final quarters.
Their final quarters have been sensational this year. They've only conceded